So hello everyone. So welcome to IEEE panel on human-centered computing research in South America, status quo, opportunity, and challenges. Okay, so human-centered computing research, or HCC, including visualization, virtual reality, human-computer interactions, is on the rise worldwide due to various reasons such as socioeconomic developments, government investment, and talent acquisition and retention. HCC research in developing country and region lags. So this panel gathered leading HCC researchers from South America to report the status quo, highlight the latest advance, identify opportunities, and discuss challenges, especially in the wave of AI and amid global issues such as climate change and the democracy crisis. So the goal is to inform the VIS attendee of HCC research progress in South America and seek possibility to elevate its status. So this event is sponsored by the IEEE VGTC. So the agenda for this panel will go as follows, right? So first I will briefly introduce the panelists, and each panelist will give a brief research brief. And then we actually prepare a list of questions for the panelists. So they will go through the question and have a discussion. And we also monitor the question from Slido. If you have any question, please post there. We enjoy your question to the panelists as well. And at the end, we'll conclude the panel, and each panel will give some concluding remarks. Okay, so here are the panelists. So my name is Charlie Wang. So I'm a professor from University of Notre Dame, and we have four excellent panelists here. Cesar Colazos from University of Calcas in Colombia, Luciana Nidal from Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil, and Luis Gustavo Nonato from University of Sao Paulo, and Dennis Parra from Pontifical Catholic University of Chile. Okay, so actually, I know Gustavo well. He's a good contributor and also contribute the conference as a general chair at the VIS, so he's a familiar figure in the conference. And I also know Dennis Parra personally. So as a Catholic University in Notre Dame and also the PUC at Chile, so we have collaborative internal proposal. I actually write one and visit Dennis in, I think back in 2016, he also visit Notre Dame, so we know each other well. We have some collaboration. It's also wonderful to know Cesar Colazo and Luciana Nidal, so who I don't know before this this event. So Gustavo and Dennis recommend them to me. So it's good to have all these four panelists. We look forward to a wonderful discussions. Just in case, so why this panel or why I organize this panel? So I currently serve as the international liaison of the IEEE VGTC executive committees. In my role, one of the job description is to support the creation and the maintenance of collaborative event in different countries. So I've been thinking about a panel like this for a while, and I think it would be great to bring researchers from region that are less well known in VIS or in general HCC researchers to bring to the VIS audience to have a good discussions. Okay. So again, I'm a professor from University of Notre Dame in the USA. My research interests are scientific visualization, visual analytics, and visualization in general. So I also do quite a bit of AI for VIS work in the past several years. Professor Cesar Colazos is from University of Calcas in Colombia. So his research interests computer-supported collaborative learning, human-computer interactions, user-centered design, and technology-enhanced learnings. Professor Luciana Nidal is from Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil, in southern part of Brazil, as you can see here in the map. So her research is virtual reality, human-computer interactions, visualization, and immersive analytics. And Professor Luis Gustavo Nato is a professor from University of Sao Paulo. His research interests are visualization, data science, and machine learning. And finally, Dennis Parra is associate professor at Pontifical Catholic University of Chile in Santiago. His research interests are recommender systems, intelligent user interface, information visualization, AI, and in particular medical AIs. Okay, now let's move on to the research brief for each panelist. Let's start with thesis.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to say thank you, Shaoli, for organizing this important panel. I think this could be a great opportunity to collaborate with you and with Gustavo and Dennis, because with Luciana, we have had the opportunity to meet before. As Shaoli mentioned, my name is Cesar Collazos. I'm a full professor of computer science department of the University of Cauca in Colombia, that is located in the southwest of Colombia. I pursued my PhD students in the University of Chile, and I have been visiting professor of different Ibero-American universities. And also, currently, I am the head of this research group in my university. And also, an important thing that I would like to mention to you is that we have an HCI network that the name is HCI Collab, that is a collaborative network supporting HCI education in different Ibero-American countries. When I mention Ibero-American, I mention Latin American, Spain, and Portugal. Also, I'm part of the CLAY. CLAY is the Latin American Society of Informatics, and we have part of IFIP working group 13, that is the working group of human-computer interaction. So we have been working on aspects related of how to improve or increase the education of human-computer interaction in different Latin American countries. Next, please, Charlie. Some of my most important and relevant research works that I have been doing is, the first one is, as I mentioned before, this network that is HCI Collab. We organize three aspects of three activities on this network. The first one is an Ibero-American workshop. Next year will be held in Mexico in our 11th edition. Also, the last Thursday of every month, we organize some webinars where we invite people from industry and academy in order to present what they are doing on human-computer interaction. And also, last year, we published a digital book about this experience about on ACI in Ibero-American countries. Next, please, Charlie. I have been working more in aspect related about how to design technology for diverse communities. In particular, we have been working with children with ASD, that is autism spectrum disorder, in order to design technology to better support the quality of life. In that way, we create a framework that we call FRIDA, that is a framework for software design applied in the treatment of this kind of children. Next, please. Also, we have been working with some colleagues from Spain in a project that we call Placer, that is a playful experience with interactive social agents and robots, particularly for elderly people. And now we are trying to design or to include this kind of robots or this kind of social agents and robots in a ASD community in order to improve the communication and social skills, trying to design technology more focused on their special needs and in a collaborative manner with the therapist. That is an important thing that we work. We work in a co-design methodology in order to design technology that could be best adapted for the special needs of this kind of people. And last month, we began with a new project try to work with this kind of technology for indigenous people, because our region has a lot of indigenous communities. So this could be a good, interesting point that maybe next year we could present in this kind of Congress. Okay, this is all the most important project that we have been working. Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. So let's move on to the next, Luciana.
And okay, good morning, and thanks, Shaoli, for the introduction and for inviting us for organizing this panel. I am a full professor at the Institute of Informatics at the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, in the very south of Brazil, and I am developing my research in the FIS lab group here in our university. I am also the head of the Center of Entrepreneurship Informatics. It's a business incubator, and then I am mixing a bit what we are doing in research and how to favorize the society with this. Yeah, I have other tasks, and one of the ones that are taking more time nowadays is I am the program co-chair of IEEE VR for next year, and next please. And this is just to introduce me. Okay, in our group, the lab, I said it's a VIS lab, it's visualization, interaction, and simulation lab. We are working in three ways. We do visualization, we do interaction, we do simulation, and we do interaction. And the work we are doing here are the intersection between these three research fields. Next, please. And then for one side, we use to develop simulators, usually simulators in virtual reality, and we are also working with data and exploration of those data in an immersive manner. Then regarding in the simulation field, what we are doing in the last few years are we are working with training hard skills simulation in the medical field, and for this we are working for some time in simulating the endoscopes and endoscopies. At this moment, we are working on a simulation for colonoscopy, and then we have here a lot of different uh, problems to solve. And for one side, we need to reconstruct the organs and to represent it. And all the organs are deformable. And as you can see in the image at the left. And after that, we need to detect the collision and to move an endoscope. And it's very difficult from the point of view of interaction. And then try to do all of this in VR. And then this is one of our main projects at this moment. Of course, I am working with it in it with other colleagues. And please, the other. We are also working simulators for learning and training, and here the idea is not only to train hard skills but also soft skills. And for this, we are involved in a project called Meta Health. And the idea in this project is to provide a hub where professors and instructors can configure and can develop simulators in high level using web, and then the training are done in VR, and all the data collected during this training goes back to the web to be analyzed by the instructors and also the students. And then in this project, we are providing an immersive interface for training clinical skills, basically. And the methodology we are using for this is very known, and it's called OSCE, Objective Structured Clinical Examination. And the idea is to create a startup to the end of this year. Please, next. Okay, moving to the other field we are exploring for some time, I would like to talk about some projects on immersive analytics. Of course, when you work with a lot of data, and we are working here with space-time data mainly, we have a lot of data and we need a lot of space to analyze it. And we are investing a lot on studying how the users prefer to interact with data in an immersive condition, and I'm using mainly VR in this case. And the first thing we developed in this sense was the virtual desk metaphor. It's the idea of working with a virtual desk and to put the data on the table, and then you can explore it by scaling and translating and rotating. After that, we started to study other things. How is the best way to interact with those data and in each conditions? And we are using the virtual hand to interact, considering that all the elements are near the user, and we compare this with the use of a virtual pointers that's usually used to select and to interact with objects that are far from the user. After that, we studied the design space in immersive analytics, what the user prefer, and what's the more pleasant is to use an exocentric data when all the data is on the table, for example, on the desk, or if you are in the middle in an egocentric view when we are in the middle of the data, or a very huge view on when we are also in an egocentric way in the middle of the data, but you are very small comparing with the data. And then we analyze this, and we have a lot of recommendations now to do. Our final work in this we presented this year in VR was to, and then we explored a very known analytics, visual analytics paper. That's the TaxiVis, and we re-implemented TaxiVis in VR and in 3D just to reimagine how it can take benefit from the 3D and from the infinite space and how users can interact with this, and we analyze this. Please, next slide. And we are also exploring other ideas in this sense. One of that is to using the concept of immersive infographics or visceralization, when you can see the generation of trash, for example, or how much money can you have if you put this in the middle of the environment you are. And this is something we are working on, and to convince people about data. And also we are trying other things, as to divide the environment we have in many different pieces, and how to interact with this. This is the work we're doing here in the last few years in the lab. Okay, I think it's all for now. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks, Luciana, for the nice brief, and you bring a wonderful aspect of immersive analytics to the table. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to the next panelist, Gustavo.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much, Charlie, for organizing this panel. It's a very important opportunity to bring together the Latin American community that is working on HCC. And it's also a pleasure to know Cesar and Dennis. Luciana and I, we are colleagues for a long time, so I pretty much appreciate this opportunity. So I'm a full professor at the Institute of Computer and Mathematical Science at the University of São Paulo, in São Paulo, Brazil. I'm the leader of the GIVA research group. Indeed, GIVA is the name of the lab. We have 3 research groups in the lab. One leader by me, And the other two is more focused on image processing and computer vision, and also in machine learning. So I will talk a little bit about the work we are doing in my group in a few minutes. I also was associate editor of TVCG, Computer Graphics Forum, and I was the general chair of IEEE Visualization in 2021. Next, please, Shirley. Okay, so in my group, we have worked in 4 main research fronts, essentially. That is crime analytics. That is the biggest project we have now in my group. Also in tracking timber in Brazil. Another front is legal analytics, and the last one is explainability. The first 3 research fronts is in fact more applied research fronts, while this explainability front is more focused on academic developments and so on. So next, please, Shaoli. So I'll talk a little bit about the research I'm doing in each one of those 4 fronts. Regarding crime analytics, we are developing machine learning techniques to assist users to understand how urban environment impacts in the crime dynamics. So essentially what we are doing is trying to understand how you can intervene in the urban environment in such a way to reduce crimes in certain locations in the city. And we develop a number of visualization-assisted tools to do this kind of analysis. So next one. And we also are using counterfactual explanation tools to understand how urban attributes contribute to increase or reduce crimes in each specific region of the city. And these tools essentially provides different scenarios where a policymaker can, for example, to decide which of those scenarios is the most appropriated one, or to be employed in order to reduce crimes in certain locations. And this work in particular is a collaboration with the police department of the São Paulo city. Next one, Shirley. And we also are developing crime prediction tools, but not with the intent of saying a crime will take place in a certain location at 10 p.m., for example. That's not our goal. We are developing this crime prediction tools more focused on plug explainability tools on the machine learning models in order to understand which variables are impacting in the model decision. So the idea is not to make the prediction itself, but understand why the model is, which variables are taking the model to make the decision it is made. So to understand essentially how the attributes are impacting the crime or not. So this is the main focus of this front of research, and we are using graph neural networks using the predictions in a street level of detail. Next one, please, Shirley. Okay, regarding the timber trade project, we worked for 2 years to integrate data from the 3 systems in charge of controlling the timber trade in Brazil. So we have 3 different systems, and those systems are not integrated. And the integration of the data was a very challenging task, because the systems does not have exactly the same information, and the data is not provided with the same patterns, and so it was a huge work to integrate those three systems, but we succeed in doing that, and now we are moving to start to visualize the timber trade network in Brazil and how the companies involved in the timber market operate. So next one, please, Shirley. So we are the first group to be able to visualize the timber trade network in Brazil. So and we have a timber network for each wood species. No, so for example, in this image, I'm showing the timber network for the IPs. That is an important species in terms of commercial in Brazil, in terms of it's widely used for industry and so on. And now we can, given the network, we can now to explore this network in order to investigate, for example, certain the legality of the operation of certain companies, or we can even compute communities inside the network to understand how they are negotiating certain species and so on. And this is opening a multitude of opportunities and bringing a new view of how to control the timber market in Brazil, different from other initiatives that's more focused on, for example, try to tracking the wood from the forest to the end consumer using, for example, ships or so on. That's much more expensive. And here we are using purely data science and visualization to do the control. So it's cheaper and, in my opinion, at least more reliable. So next one, Shirley, please. And this visualization and analytical tools allow us, for example, to identify suspicious behaviors as this one we are seeing in this picture here. So here I'm showing you a case study using this company I'm calling A. This company has a mass balance between the wood that is inputted or that arrives in the company and what the company is selling. So in general, this balance should be smaller than 1, because when you swill the wood, you have a loss and everything else. So in general, the balance should be smaller than 1. But for certain companies, we notice that the balance is much higher than 1, what is a very suspicious behavior. And then we can analyze the supply chain of those companies using the network we build and so on in order to further understand what is going on in terms of market. Next one, Charlie, please. In the legal analytics front, essentially, we are developing a system to support the Supreme Court in Brazil to streamline the process of what we call general repercussion topics that the Supreme Court has. So essentially, the problem is the lower courts send our appeal to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has to check if that appeal has already been judged or not. And there's a huge amount of appeals that arrive in the Supreme Court, and making this initial verification is very important to reduce the work for the ministers and so on. And we are developing a visualization system tool to help the people in charge of making this initial analysis and speed up, this process. The next one, please. Show. And all the system is a combination of machine learning and visualization, especially using large language models to identify the important parts in each one of the appeals and searching in the database of the Supreme Court to see if those parts of the document has present in other already judged documents, and then this speed up a lot this decision-making process. Next, please. Okay, to conclude, in the explainability front, we are working on developing visualization-assisted tools to explore essentially 3 problems involved in explainability. The first one is the problem of how to evaluate the quality of explanation tool. We know that there are several metrics to assess the quality of an explanation, but the problem is that those metrics does not agree in terms of if you take a certain technique and apply the metric for that technique, you have a result. And if you run again the same technique and apply the metric again, the result changes substantially. And if you have many different explanation techniques to analyze, the metrics vary substantially from one to another, so it's difficult to decide which technique we should use. So the next one, please. And we also using topological tools to analyze the manifolds generated for feature attribution explanation tools. And this is a work we presented this year in VIS. And this methodology is very different from the others that is proposed in the literature, because provide new metrics to access explanation tools, and at the same time allows to compare explanation tools from a topological point of view. The next one, Shirley, please. And finally, we are investigating the disagreement problem using visual analytic mechanisms, and the disagreement problem essentially regards the situation where if you use 2 different explanation techniques, one technique can say that certain attributes are important, and the other technique can say that other attributes are important for the same instance of data, so they don't agree, and how to make sure which explanation technique you should use in this scenario where you have a large amount of disagreement. So we are developing tools to assist users in this decision. I think this is pretty much what I have, Shirley. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Gustavo. So I see a lot of great example of visual analytics, right? So you're talking about fighting crime and tracking timber trade, and also the legal analytics. So also at the end you talk about explainability of the neural network. So yeah, so thank you so much. So the next panelist, Dennis Para, he will give his research brief.
Yeah, thank you, Chaoli, for the invitation, also for gathering this panel. We are in the same continent, but in a way we're in slightly different communities, and sometimes we just don't get to know each other, our work, and potential collaborations that we could develop. So I really appreciate the fact that you put this together, and hopefully we are also more aware of the research that we are conducting here in the continent. So I'm an associate professor at the computer science department in the Catholic University in Santiago in Chile. I have been visiting as a professor the Notre Dame University, where you work, in 2016, and the last year I was doing my sabbatical in Belgium, in KU Leuven. I'm also a researcher in some collaborative research centers in Chile. We have a policy in Chile that certain lines of research require more than one university. We are not always just competing among universities. We know that we need to get together because we are not a big country like Brazil, where you can have like huge departments. We have a smaller computer science department, like 20 people. So in the case of the National Center for Artificial Intelligence, we have researchers from the University of Chile, from the Catholic University of Chile, also from Santa Maria University, and also from some private universities. So those are some collaborative funding and efforts to tackle this problem at a national level and also internationally with collaborations. I'm also part of the Millennium Institute for Intelligent Healthcare Engineering, which is an effort for AI, especially focused on health and on medical imaging. We have here experts on magnetic resonance imaging, X-rays, and also AI in general related to health. And I am part of the artificial intelligence group, but within that group, we have a subgroup, which is the human-centered AI and visualization, which is the more related to this panel that we are discussing here. Next slide. So among the projects I have been involved in visualization, in this one, we collaborated actually with the University of Chile and also with some insurance companies on the topic of crime analytics with car. There were several cars stolen in different situations, and the insurance companies, they kept track of the descriptions that people were doing when they were suffering some of these crimes. And we wanted to see which brands of vehicles were more affected, how this was evolving in different parts of the city, and also which were the different ways that these acts were happening. So we saw also a research topic that wasn't covered at the time, which is how to present a multi-class density map. We have seen a lot of research on displaying visually density maps for different applications, but how to do it for multi-class data, there was very little at the time. And so we wanted to explore, on the one side, the visualization research aspect, but also how to analyze this. And we collaborated also with Maria Jesus Lobo, who now works in France, in Paris, regarding how to compare different ways of visualize and compare over time this visualization. And we were able to identify certain patterns, and these patterns were used by the insurance companies to tell the customers of the insurance company how to prevent or how to take care of their cars if they are, for instance, parking in certain places, or maybe buying certain measures for reducing the risk of suffering a crime. Next. My main research topic over 10 years has been recommender systems, and I have worked a lot on user interfaces for recommender systems. So one of the main conferences I usually attend is the Intelligent User Interfaces, which has an aspect, of course, of interfaces, visualization, but also has to have some aspect on artificial intelligence. In this particular work, we develop a recommender system for images, for art, and we wanted to see whether people perceive as more explainable something more transparent, like a recommendation where you tell the user exactly which variables you are using, but maybe the recommender is not like very precise, very accurate, compared to a recommender, which is a lot more accurate, where you are using deep neural networks, but you are not able to provide a more transparent explanation. Our results show that people although they had less transparency on which variables were involved in the recommendation, since they were able to somehow predict what the model was going to do, they felt that the less transparent, the black box model, was more interpretable. So in a way, there are different definitions of interpretability and explainability. And in this case, we realized that when people feel that they are understanding the model and the way that it's going to behave, that's in this case a better predictor of the perception of explainability and interpretability than just providing transparency that doesn't really give you a good and accurate recommendation. Next one. This is a more recent research. One of my PhD students, she was interested in studying the whole public policy process, where you start by designing certain potential policies, and then you need to promote this policy. And in that process, usually you need to inform people and then take this into public opinion to take it finally to the Congress or to a more formal discussion, for instance, in laws or regulations. So what she wanted to study is whether different ways of showing the information, in particular in this topic, which is the water crisis, was going to have a stronger effect on people in terms of attitude, in terms also of remembering certain people that we call certain information that we call information retention. And we designed an informative article where you have text, you also have illustrations about the effect that it was having the water crisis in Chile, and also about the reasons of this. Yeah, we were describing here that this is not only a matter of climate change, but also a matter of the regulation and the structure of regulation of water in Chile. And we wanted to compare whether static illustration and interactive visualizations had a different effect on people. And we indeed show here that when you provide more information in terms of interactive visualizations with maps, with different graphics, you are going to have first a change in attitude and also a persistent change in attitude, because we measure this immediately after showing this article, and we also measure it 2 weeks later. But what was interesting is that although people somehow changes their attitude, they don't retain more information about the causes of this, because we ask them certain information about the article immediately after, and 2 weeks later they remember less, or exactly they say they didn't increase they didn't retain more information. So in a way, what we are showing here, and is one of the things that we are going to discuss later in this panel, is that you can maybe with visualization affect people's attitude about certain topics, but maybe they are not going to remember exactly the facts, and that can be maybe an issue when you get to finally discuss the laws and potential regulation. Next. And as I mentioned, I'm working in the National Center for AI in Chile, and also in a particular center for AI medical imaging. And one thing that we face a lot in developing countries is that we don't have the same volume of data and label data for training models, especially for medical aspects. So when you search for data to train a machine learning model, a neural network, there are few public data sets, and most of them are from the US or from Europe, or maybe from China, from Asia. And when we try to find this from Latin America, from South America, we find very few, or they are very small. There are also, of course, privacy issues because you don't want to expose patient data publicly without taking care of anonymization and other aspects like this. But also our professionals are usually very busy with the clinical practice with attending patients, and they don't have much time to label, let's say, like 100,000 images to provide a large data set. So what we were studying in this particular work was how to do transfer learning from a model that has a medium size or large amount of data to a smaller one, which is called model adaptation or transfer learning. And what happens when you have maybe some large data but without any labels, and you have very little data, let's say dozens or hundreds of labels, and you need to adapt this model. And here in this study, we studied self-supervised learning with some visualization aid also to promote and try to see if these models can perform well on our population, because we have different phenotypes, we have different genotypes, and then the models that perform very well on certain populations in North America or in Europe might not perform very well on us, and we need special methods to improve that adaptation. Next. Okay, so that's a summary of my work. I'm very happy to discuss the challenges that we have common here, and then we can help with the human-centered computing.
Okay, thanks, Dennis. So for the rest of maybe 30 minutes or so we'll move on to the Q&A section. So those are questions proposed by me and some of the panelists, and we will go through those, and also we'll be taking questions if there's any from Slido from the audience. Okay, so let's move on to the first question. So what are the strengths and weaknesses of the HCC research in your country or South America?
May I start, Shaoli?
Yes,
Oh, so
please.
sorry, Cesar, go ahead.
No. Luciana, because I don't know. Well, okay,
Yeah,
it doesn't
I have
matter.
just a,
Okay.
okay, I have just a comment on it. I think, like some of you mentioned it before, I think we are doing a lot of good and interesting research here in Brazil and also in Colombia, Chile, Argentina. But and we have a lot of connections with US, Europe, and so on. But and this is a strength. But a weakness is that we are not working together. We have so few opportunities to work in a network between uh, more than one countries in the region. For example, for me, I am very near Uruguay and Argentina, and nearest than I am from Gustavo, that is in São Paulo. And we don't have opportunities to work together, and this is a problem we have here, I think.
Dennis, you want to go next? So you have a
Maybe Cesar, he raised his hands first. You can go
Okay,
first, and myself.
okay. Thank you, Dennis. For me, I think that we have a lot of strengths and a lot of weakness, of course. But I would like to summarize, for example, some aspects that I have been working on different projects in South America. I think that one of the most important strengths that we have as a Latin American community is the culture. Some of the projects that Dennis, Luis Gustavo, Luciana mentioned have been or having include aspects related with culture, because in many South American countries, human-centered computing is driven by a need of address social issues like education, for example, healthcare, economic inequality, that is particular of our region. So we have been created or proposing projects focused on create solutions according to the special needs of our region. So I think this is a very important strength that as a Latin American community we have. Another important aspect that I think that is interesting is in many countries, for example, there had been since last years a government and institutional support in a way that, for example, there are some ministers of ICT in order to promote the creation of this kind of projects, technology projects, in order to support the better quality of life of citizens. I think that this is a good initiative. And of course, there are some weaknesses because we don't have many financial support to do this kind of projects. As Luciana mentioned, in many cases, we don't work with our Latin American colleagues. In many cases, we try to work with people from Asia, North America, but we don't, I don't know what happened. We are too close, but we too far from our colleagues. So we need to create some networks like this initiative, for example, in order to understand what people are doing, because in many cases, we try to repeat or to do the same thing that other groups are doing. So these kind of initiatives are a good opportunity to at least know what the other people are doing in order to create cooperative networks, because I think this is a good opportunity to strengthen our community in Latin America, and it's an opportunity to grow up and be different like the other region. And another thing that is important to mention for me, I think, is that in some cities in Latin America, for example, here in Colombia, Medellin is considered the new Silicon Valley city in a way that they are doing or they are creating some tech ecosystems in a way that there are a close relationship between academy and industry. In particular, for example, we are working more on human-computer interaction and user experience, and we have been created this link between industry and academy, considering this kind of ecosystem that have been created during last year. So I think this is a good opportunity to continue to work in a collaborative manner. Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, so I've been thinking of the opinions you're giving, and in a way, I think that one of our main strengths is our weaknesses. We have less funding than many other regions, but that also makes us sometimes be a bit more creative. We need to find a way to do as well as in the US or Europe with a lot more little money, right? Now, also we have challenges, as Oscar described, in health, in education, and also we have right now more common problems. In the past, maybe we could think that we could isolate within our own countries and we could try to solve our own problems. Sometimes well, sometimes not so well. But the reality is now making us face a common challenges. In particular, the crisis in Venezuela has made an issue of immigration all over South America. So that has made people going from Venezuela to Colombia, to Peru, to Ecuador, Chile. I heard that also in northern Brazil also. And sometimes we just close as a country and we want to solve the problem by ourselves. But we have described here issues in common like crime, for instance. And I think that in a way we should try to work more together in order to face some of these issues, right? So that's a potential strength that we have, and we should have more initiatives to work working together as a region, rather than only trying to show that we can collaborate or compete with institutions in the US, in Europe, or the top institutions in Asia. That's one thing. Another weakness that we have is that for instance, I was doing my sabbatical in Belgium last year, and it was due to smaller distances and a better infrastructure for transportation by trains, especially. You could easily travel from Belgium to Netherlands, Germany, France, and having a one-day workshop and then come back within the day. And South America is pretty large. You know that because of the projection, South America doesn't look as large, but just Brazil is a huge country. Colombia is also a very, very big country. We are a narrow country, but super long. If you start in the northern part of Chile and you try to do something in the very south, it's gonna take you many days if you try to make it like that. So that's a challenge that we need to provide ways to get together. This is one way. We can do more, maybe more remote or virtual meetings, scientific meetings, but also try to create or maybe get funding because there are institutions worldwide that sometimes provide funding for diversity and try to create, let's say, summer schools or instances where our students can get to know each other well. I think that this is a great event for starting off, but we should do more frequently this type of activities, and also to we influence it, try to provide some influence in our university, so they are considered as important as attending, let's say, an A or A star conference in our, I don't know, resumes or curriculum or profiles. So we see that this collaboration can start to grow and develop.
Thank you. Gustavo, do you have any comment?
Yes, I would like to make a comment regarding Brazil specifically. So, would you mind to go to the picture I included
sure.
in the next slide? So, as we see here, in Brazil, we have a considerable number of groups working in HCC. No, we have 125 groups registered in the official research systems in Brazil. That is a system called Grupos de Pesquisa of CNPq. That is a federal agency that coordinates and regulates the research in Brazil. But the problem is that those research groups are mostly concentrated in the east coast of the country. No, so and very little groups, no 12 I could find in north and Midwest of the country. And we know that the north and Midwest of Brazil is exactly where we are facing huge problems with illegal deforestation, is exactly where the largest agricultural producers located, and so on. And those activities indeed impacts a lot in climate change, and HCC research groups are not concentrated in those areas. So we have this strength in Brazil that we have a considerable number of groups, but at the same time, those groups are not evenly spread around the country, and mostly they are not located in important regions regarding the current climate change we have.
Thank you all sharing your insight. Yeah, so I mean, to me, look at this map, it's no wonder to me. I mean, I was originally from China. In China, you can also see something like this, right? So the economy is much stronger in the coastal area rather than the inland area. So you also see this kind of diverse research gap, right, between different regions. And also speaking of between the different country, right? So I'm not sure. So does South America countries have some kind of funding that can support collaboration within the regions? Like, do they encourage it? Do they have some funding mechanism to encourage exchange or visiting between different countries in your regions? Yeah, Dennis?
Yeah, I was going to mention that the last year, a program of scholarships was developed within South American countries. It's called Sur-Sur. and at least this year we started getting a lot more applications at the master program here in the engineering school, and they were applying to this Sur funding for master and also PhD program. So even we got some application from Africa last year, because there was one particular branch of this program that was promoting more collaborations among countries in the southern hemisphere. So at least I saw that is like an initial point. It's not too much among collaborations of programs, but bringing people at least in Chile. If I understood well, that also should be among different countries. It's not also coming to Chile. Apart from that, maybe there are certain conferences like I haven't attended, but I know about CLAY, which is the Latin American Conference on Informatics, and probably we should promote. For instance, we can do that work here in Chile, promoting more the participation on that conference. At some point, Ricardo Baeza Yates was a big promoter of that conference, but he's not working in Chile full time anymore. But we should try to start again making that promotion. And I was going to say that when I saw the map of Gustavo, we have a similar situation in Chile. Most of the big funding is in Santiago, close by in Valparaíso, in a few regions in the south, like Concepción, and the other universities have considerably less funding and research activity. So this unequal distribution of research, and when you think of which are the places that are facing the biggest problems in climate change, in also timber activity, the same in southern Chile, or in the mining operations in northern Chile, that's where the maybe funding or at least maybe some of these events, we should try to move them into these locations so people are more aware that there is also scientific and academic interest in this topic, and we are not only in this Marvel Tower where we don't look at the society and we don't care about the problems and try to solve them.
Okay, thanks, Dennis. So we have maybe 20 minutes left, so let's move on to the next question. What are the unique gaps, opportunities, and challenges of HCC research in your country or South America? I think this question shares a lot of similarity with the previous one. So yeah, so let's see what you have to offer.
Okay. Oh, Luis Gustavo, no. Maybe.
Yeah, Gustavo, please.
Okay, so I think that a huge opportunity I see is that our countries, they have very similar problems, and in particular fields like, for example, in crime and agriculture and so on. So somehow we should take these characteristics of similarity of problems and even the similarity of the social problems in urban areas, and try to develop projects, collaborative projects between the countries, or among the countries. So how to do that is a challenge because of fundings, as we already mentioned during the answers in the previous questions. However, there are certain opportunities of funding coming from specifically from Europe, where we can apply for collaborative projects with certain some universities in Europe, but these projects must involve more than one country in Latin America. So I see this as a very important opportunity to approximate research groups, focus mainly on common problems that are shared by the countries in Latin America. So I think we have this challenge, but at the same time, this is an opportunity. And this kind of funding is up almost every year. So we should somehow to be more attentive to that and try to collaborate and make proposals together to solve these big problems involving all the countries.
So, Gustavo, are you talking about the Horizon particularly, or there are other lines of funding too?
Exactly. I think Horizon is
Horizon 2020,
yeah.
yes.
Exactly.
Thank you. Cesar, please.
Yeah, I agree with Luis Gustavo. Also, I would like to mention that in Latin America, when in South America, for example, many countries still face significant digital divides, especially between urban and rural areas. As Luis Gustavo mentioned, for example, in Colombia, it's the same that in Chile, that in the center of Colombia, for example, there are the big companies and the big universities, but the rest of the country, in many cases, is isolated. So this lack of access to trustworthy internet and modern technologies is complicated to design technology for this region. But we have many opportunities, and as mentioned, Luis Gustavo mentioned, for example, for me, we have a very rich region in aspect related with the culture. South America is a rich cultural diversity and presents a big opportunity to develop unique, specific applications or solution of human-centered computing solution, because we have a potential for design technology that align with local customs, with local language, with social norms, creating digital ecosystems that in a good way could improve the quality of life of the people. So I think this is a great opportunity that we have. Also, that during last years, we have been observed that in many countries, there is a growing tech industry. There are many regions, Sao Paulo, for example, or in Chile, or here in Colombia, in Medellin, as I mentioned before, that some cities have experienced the rise of technological startups, innovation hubs. So there is a growing opportunities for human-centered computing, design systems that helps to improve the quality of life for these kind of communities. And there is a problem that I observed, because as I mentioned before, I have been working on human-computer interaction, is that many of the human-centered computing programs are more focusing on technology, but they don't have aspect related with psychology, social science. So we need to begin to work in a collaborative manner with different areas, knowledge areas, in order to create programs, technological programs, that really consider the needs of people, designing technology for people, okay? So I think this is a good point to consider. Thank you.
From my point of view, it's very similar of the one Cesar mentioned it now. It's difficult for an underdeveloped country or in development country to invest in science, while against, if you compare with health, education, and more urgent needs we have. However, we are learning that it's important in the worst manner, probably because we had a pandemic some years ago, and we are facing floods and drought and very a lot of climatic events, and it's becoming clear for us that we need to use data, we need to analyze data, and we need to focus in local problems. And we learn how to do science in a global way, global manner, and this is okay, this is very good, but we need to try to apply this to local problems. And as when each one of us mentioned what we are doing or the kind of problems we are facing, I think the good news is that we started to doing this, such as to study the timber trade or crimes, or I don't know, the carbon footprint, for example. We're trying to visualize this kind of stuff, and garbage generation, water usage, and things like that. And then to face this kind of problems, this is as Cesar mentioned, it's a multidisciplinary problem. And we need not always to work together, but to work together with people with different backgrounds, and that can analyze the data the visualizations we generate in a different way. And this, I think, the bad news is that this is a challenge, and the good news is that we discovered how important data is, and and we know what we can do to solve these problems. And in my opinion, the solution is to have funding for this, to work in network, and to act globally to solve local problems. This is my
Thank
point.
you. Thank you for sharing insights. So, due to time constraint, we'll probably skip a few questions. Let's move on to some of the later one. Let's talk about climate, right? So, as we know of, so the conference, the VIS conference was have to move to online because of the hurricane. When I contact Luciana in the summer, she also, the region also suffered from severe flooding there. So it's climate change is affecting all of us. So the question here is, how could climate issue in South American country have greater visibility thanks to HCC research? Dennis, please.
Yes, the research I mentioned is something that take us to at least to make it visible that it's not only about climate change, it's also about regulations. How each country manages, for instance, water, it really can have a big impact policy on how it's finally shared on the community. Now, in terms of for Chile, for instance, we have the Andes Mountains, and as a child, I always heard of the eternal snow. So there are snow in the mountains that we are going to always have fresh water because of that. But then many glaciers are disappearing, and we are really facing the progress of the advance of the desert from northern Chile to now the center of Chile. Many producers, agriculture is suffering from this. It was quite impressive for me that Chile is a big producer of wine, and usually wine production is in the center of Chile, and now they are producing some varieties of wine in southern Chile, which was unthinkable like 20 years ago. Now, using visualization, of course, can help to make visible this situation. People see it, but not everyone is facing how fast is progressing this, and how, for instance, activities like timber trading that Gustavo was showing is also affecting. So I think that in terms of visual analytics, visualization itself, also making sometimes tools that can promote awareness of this. For instance, there is this famous visualization that was the front page of The Economist, where you have lines showing the average temperature of the world, and you see how good was increasingly going from bluer to red, showing the increase of this type of tools sometimes make people and that they can also interact to face the situation, how fast it's changing, and then also pushing the authorities and we as a community to take more important measures. What Luciana was showing was also very interesting. The fact that you can, with virtual reality, extended reality, visualize what is happening when you are not dealing with trash. And if you face it here in front of you, it's going to use like squares and squares of the city. So I think that these are technological tools and using them to increase awareness of how the situation is impacting us and how worse it can go, even if we make with AI prediction tools on this, we can have an impact, and this can help, I think, not only in South America, but particularly with the problems that we are facing here.
Anyone else wanted to
Yeah,
chime in?
I would like
Yes.
to summarize that. I think that if we have diverse platforms, accessible platforms, because I think it's important to mention, because in many cases, for example, in Colombia, we have many people that don't have access to technology. So it's necessary to design accessible tools in order to have this information with the idea to engage the community, policymakers, and global audience about the importance, for example, of climate change. And with this kind of tools, many policymakers could design or could define what could be the best way to avoid with this big problem. So we need to work in a collaborative manner, not only with the technology designers, but with the community, because it's necessary to design to work in a collaborative manner in co-design activities, considering their cultural diversity, and in many cases, for example, considering their ancestral knowledge in a way that this information could be designed or could be presented in a manner that could be understood but by different audience. Okay.
Okay, so we have 6 to 7 minutes until the streaming will be cut out. So let's move on to the last part. So I want each panel to have some concluding remarks, maybe 1 or 2 minutes for each of you. So maybe let's start with Gustavo.
Sorry, I was muted. Okay, so if I correctly understood, we should discuss the last questions, right? How can HCC and this
No,
support
we are
agents?
running out of time. So at this moment, so maybe just some concluding remark from you.
Okay.
Yeah, like final thought. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I think this is a very important opportunity to put South American countries and research together. And we should try to start to set up a more regular events like this one, or even trying to organize new ones, involving the HCC community in Latin America. Here in Brazil, I don't know if you know, Shaoli, but we have a very large conference that is kind of Latin American for visualization, computer graphics, image processing, and VR, and so on. Maybe we could try to push this conference to really become a Latin American conference, not trying to involve more researchers from other countries. And also, as a final message from my side here, we really should start to push together those fundings opportunities we have from Europe. So I really would like to encourage my colleagues here to start to push in this funding direction, because that will be a way to strengthen our collaboration. So thank you very much, Shaoli, for organizing this.
Thank you, Gustavo.
So I have to go
yes.
teaching, so let me go my
Sure.
finishing work. So Well, thank you for this opportunity. It was really interesting to see everyone's opinion. It's clear that we have many common challenges and we should start working together. Now, on the practical side,